Hello, my Taurian collective. This is your creative forecast for June. We're going to dive right in. So, there's a lot happening this month. So, on the 4th of June, we have a Saturn retrograde. Great time to start to look into, some things about your foundation, the systems that you participate in, the traditions and rules, the ways that you're restricted by them, the ways that you can also free yourself from them too. This liberatory energy as well. And I think of that because after the Saturn retrograde, we also have a full moon in Sagittarius, which is sort of an expansion of that energy. And, Sagittarian energy is very liberatory in the way that it helps us to kind of pull back and to see bigger pictures as opposed to getting into the details, because the retrogrades can kind of pull us into the details, by default. So this Sagittarian energy it's almost like breathing that fresh life into the energy right now, this month. And then we also, after that, we have the Neptune retrograde on June 28th, which is going to help us to kind of get a little bit practical and very real about the dreams that we have, the illusions that we have, about others and ourselves, right? Seeing things as they are as opposed to as we are. So, and this is also building on the energy of the new moon in Gemini on May 30th as well. So we're going to dive right in and see what we've got. But first, the theme that I was meditating on the energy for every sign leading into this month's creative forecast. And what came to mind was photosynthetic dreaming and the idea of phototropism, where, photosynthesis in general is like taking different forms of energy in their kind of raw form and then converting them into something really, and it's this magnificent process taking place within plants that converts it to food, not just for the plant, but a sugar, like sweetness, right? So turning it into sweetness and energy that then gives life to so many other things, right? So it's this sort of domino effect of being a kind of cellular lighthouse, as it were. And so phototropism is where the plants sort of lean towards the light. And I got the image of us leaning towards the light this month collectively. So, and that helps plants to better engage in photosynthesis and photosynthetic processes. So photosynthetic dreaming with this Neptune energy is sort of dreaming our processes to life and making decisions about what we want to prioritize and not. So we're going to dive right in. All right, my darling Taurians, let's do this. So I would like to invite the angels, my guardian angels, my spirit guides, protectors, teachers, and their healing energy to this space. And I ask that it is a safe and brave space that allows for the fullest expression of our light, humanity, ascension, and healing. Okay, let's do this. So we're going to set the stage here with some thematic energy from the Hero's Journey Dream Oracle. Spirit, what message do you have for my Taurians, please? And thank you so much. I saw wind. I saw wind. Synesthetically, I do see that sometimes. But the wind, I was seeing wind through trees, and like with the strong winds that we had. One of the things that I found interesting while I was on a hike, now that I'm thinking about it, was that in a forest, like a thick forested area, the root structures helped to maintain the health of the tree and that whole system, so that there were fewer trees, I noticed, that fell in dense areas of tree, as opposed to these singular areas of trees where it was much easier for one to be uprooted. So it's sort of like this collective connection. So staying connected to the collective is going to be important. Maybe a sense of community, but also leaning on friends and family and any way that you define collective, right? Ocean of emotion. Find a safe place to express your true feelings. I'm seeing a willow tree being bent in the wind. So I wonder if the emotions is like the wind, and it's like this collective connection is helping you to metabolize different energy sources and making sure that you do not get uprooted. Not that you really could, but I'm getting this energy of like it's remembering how deep your roots go. What would your higher self do? Oh my gosh, Aries had that too. Almost in the exact same spot. Well, for sure in the exact same spot. Very interesting, Taurus. What would your higher self do? There's a book called The Secret Life of Plants, I think it is, and that's what just came to mind. And the ways that plants can feel, they are sentient. Like, I fully believe this regardless. Like, that's, but they did scientific studies that showed that plants actually do respond to pain. Plants do respond to their owners, the ones that water them. They respond to them, not just like they respond non-locally. So I'm almost getting this like non-local response. Interesting. This like non-local response, it's like being connected to your higher self is not just going to be important, but necessary, because there's a almost like this electrical signal that's being sent through the ether. But it's like the mycelial network that we can't see, but that we can feel, this quantum field. Taurus, I'm very intrigued. Color me intrigued, Taurus. Let's see what's going on here. Spirit, what messages do you have? Ooh, my ear's ringing. Wowza. Some angels had words for me right there. That was my right ear. Okay, so in the grounding position, we have the Queen of Cups. I feel, Taurus, like you might have some pretty big feelings. Not big and like intense. It's nothing. It's not like you're going to turn into the Hulk or anything. It's nothing like that. I'm just getting that there's this, how do I word this? It's like a funnel. Like you need to take all of the water, all of the emotion, and funnel it so that you don't spill it everywhere. Because there's a very, like, it's like the mouth of a bottle is smaller than the emotions that you have to pour into it. So it's like you need to just make sure that you're using the right tools to communicate them. Interesting. That's deeply fascinating. Yeah, there's something about that. Grounding, it's like grounding your emotions, but not reducing them, just using the right tools to communicate them as opposed to changing yourself or your emotions, because that ocean of emotion is here, right? Ocean of emotion. Find a safe place to express your true feelings. And this could just be doing that before you, like, it's like doing that before, like you wouldn't show up to a waterfall with a tiny little water bottle and expect it to fill very quickly, because the pressure of the waterfall would knock the water bottle right out of your hand. So it's like the context is going to be very important this month, Taurus. And that can be with creative projects that you're working on too. So in the growing position, we have the sun, which is, I feel like there is this, it's like this sense of hope, but also this beautiful sense of light that you have. And I'm seeing like midsummer vibes. Midsummer vibes. That's too many, but you want all of them. Okay. All right. Spirit's really going all out for you, Taurus. The sun. This is kind of in the how you're growing, and I feel like you're growing not just in the direction of the sun, but I'm almost getting that you're like a son unto yourself. Like you're a son unto yourself this month. Or there's something that you're connecting with that lights up a project that you're working on. Like there's some way that your energy is acting like a sun does, like a sunrise. Like a sunrise. And then we have the Hermit, Ace of Pentacles, and the Page of Pentacles. In terms of blocks and like clearing the blocks, the Hermit, the Ace of Pentacles, and the Page of Pentacles. I think this is kind of staying humble. I think there might be a need to stay a little bit humble in the face of new offers, Taurus. Not in terms of saying, like, humility is not a lack of confidence. Humility is not saying, I don't know how to do this, so forget it. This is about saying there's a new opportunity here, and I have a wisdom with me, and I know this, but I'm also still a beginner, and I do start from experience on different projects, yes. I do start from experience in relationships, yes. But also, there is a way that I need to be in this page energy so that I can be curious and learn the context of where I am and the seed that's being planted and understand it, as opposed to showing up in a hermit energy of I know everything. Because the hermit might know everything, but they also are very alone, right? So this is about connection, connectedness. You see this mycelial network in the background, right? You see that everything is connected here. So it's about understanding how to balance the energy of knowing much, but also planting these seeds and stepping into this new energy in a way that is honoring yourself, but also the fact that there are going to be others who are equal hermit energy showing up alongside you or beside you or with you on these projects, right? So if you're in your hermit energy, you can't really meet them in the sun because it casts a really long shadow, right? I think about, cedar trees and things like that really block the growth, that block new growth. And I feel like that's what's happening here, right? This is a really thick canopy. So nothing can really grow down here. Sure, outside of the forest, yes, but like internally there's very little that can grow. So it's seen as this desolate place, but in reality there's just things that have crowded out growth for it. And I feel like that's sort of the energy that you're stepping into is you're stepping into this balanced page energy of like beginning afresh. It's like the playful curiosity of something. But there's also something very grounded about this with the pentacle energy too. Like there's something growing, but the block is to show up more authentically curious and to let that be your strength. 1111 was just on the time. To show up curious and for that to be your strength. So in the... really, Taurus. So this is the this sort of oxygen produced through... This is the blossoming of the leaves and the flowers that come from converting this energy into food, is the Ace of Cups and this Queen of Pentacles. So this is you're all in to whatever it is. This could be you being all in to what you're doing, all into a relationship, all in to love. There's like a love in what you're doing and a love for what you're doing because it is a worthy investment. It is something that is so worth your time. And you know this, right? I'm getting some High Priestess vibes on that one, but it's like you're aware of this happening and you see it, but there's like, it's almost like there's something that's big here. I laughed because this energy feels so expansive and vast, right? I think about underground rivers, and I'm seeing stalagmites on like from the top of a cave. Yeah, and water running underground as like this underground aquifer or purifiers. And it's like this fresh, this way that it's like your emotions are giving life to something here. And that's that process. The photosynthetic process is really where it's like you're tapping into your emotions, but that's the biggest energy that you're converting into something that is like a sweetness, that is a sugar that allows, that fuels you, that feeds you, this tenderness. It is very grounded, though. I do get that impression here. I do get that energy a lot. The Hermit, he's here too, which tells me that there's some way that your intuition is on overdrive, and it might be important to be more in page energy right now, Taurus. Even if, like, I'm not talking about playing dumb, because I don't believe in that either, because I feel like that's, like, it doesn't honor other people, because it's inauthentic, right? This is about, though, understanding that you may have intuitive inclinations, because I strongly believe that earth signs are very intuitive. A lot of people say, no, they're of the, that's their 3D mastery. No, I think that they're very connected intuitively. And, like, I think about it this way. I've said it in other readings for earth signs, but like, Gandhi was an earth sign. Jesus was a Capricorn, came back as an Aries. But like, I mean, according to biblical mythology, but like, earth signs are very intuitive, and it's amazing to me that people read them as more materially oriented. But I think that there's something that's very important about your intuition and understanding that your emotions are informed by your intuition, and that there needs to be a flow with this. There's like a flow happening and an interconnectedness with your emotions too. So let's see what this is about here. Spirit, can you please clarify that for me? So we have the Four of Wands and the Page of Cups on the Queen of Cups. I think that there's some love energy that you're grounding here. It could be that it's like, I'm getting that, like, when you're at this, like, what, hang on, let me pull the rest of these. I just want to see what happens here. So there's the page of, so we have the Four of Wands, the Page of Cups, 10 of Wands, and the Chariot. I feel like this little page here is, you're very driven by your heart right now. But I feel like there's something about, it's almost like I'm getting this, like, you feel like being heart driven is not necessarily the most compatible with this stability, because there's some kind of instability that your emotions left you with. And I feel like there's a leaving behind, like a setting down of the 10 of Wands is like an ending, right? It's ending this exceptional hardship and believing that there's a difficulty here. Now, the Chariot is here as well, which is Cancerian energy, which has to do with the fourth house. So it could be some kind of ancestral inheritance of emotional management, but also just the interplay between emotion and intuition, because it is a kind of coming together of consciousness, right? I think I'm seeing the image of like fresh water and salt water meeting, right? And how they seem very incompatible, but they're both water, right? It's like the way that intuition and emotions might have worked for you, Taurus. Like I'm seeing that clash. I'm hearing desalination of fresh water, which we do need. Oh my gosh, fresh water is so salinated. It's ridiculous. Anyways, that's a whole other TED Talk for another time, friends. From your friendly neighborhood, I don't know, nature nut. But this is, I think, this is not just you moving forward on like from this. It's like moving away from these, but there's like a finality to this, and I feel like you might feel a little bit out of your depth or out of your element here, but there's something about your emotions that you need to let wash over you. Like you need to let them wash over you. Yeah, because that's the grounding, right? The grounding is like allowing things to take root. And I think that what's happening is this, what you're letting take root. Yeah, that's the truth. Yeah. It's like what you're letting take root is this depth of emotion, and the water is able to access all parts of the plant. This is part of the photosynthetic process, right? So the Sun card here being in this growth position with the truth, it's like there's something about your joy that is a deep truth to you. Now the Knight of Wands is coming across as like almost like an energy of not trusting so much. It's like what fires you up, and I'm hearing like this is welcome to synesthesia in the woods. I'm hearing water moving up the plant, like almost like an engine. And it's like leaving enough energy for the long haul. Like so sometimes, oh my gosh, so many thoughts coming through. So this energy in terms of mistrust is like not trusting the process to just be there for long enough. So you have to pour everything in all at once, like go, 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 go. So you have to pour it all into one. And then it's like you're just like you throw it all down in one spot, as opposed to saving the energy for the long haul, so that like this, like at a cellular level, mitochondria have to function in a specific way, and they give that energy to the whole plant, but they store the energy, right? They store the energy, and it's like this way where you need to store the energy that you get from this truth that you're integrating, that's really helping you to absorb the warmth of your joy, the light of your joy. So there's some truth that you're integrating, but just remember that you don't have to burn through the joy, because it's going to just be there, right? It's up to you for it to be there. It's not something that just gets bestowed upon you in between bad times. Like it's like trusting in the consistency, the possibility of joy being consistent, right? It took me a long time to get there. It really did. It took me a very long time to understand that joy is not something, oh, my ear's ringing again. Oh my gosh. It took me a long time to understand that joy is something that's consistent, not on the basis of what's happening outside of us, but what's happening within us, right? So just understanding that process as well. And then we have the Strength card and the Hierophant. So we have double Leo in the same row. You have to be, and that this is like the confident commitment, right? This is the confident commitment. We're trusting in our joy more. You're trusting in what you put into it, and trusting in your joy. Part of that is informed by your emotions. Part of it is it's part of oh my goodness, part of it is like informed by how trusting you are of your emotions, not just to be true, but that you deserve to feel joy, that you deserve to feel good, that you deserve to feel gratitude on a more regular basis than anything else, right? And so it's like we're trusting in this, and I think it's forming a stable foundation. So this is like the grounding and the growth here. It's like they're talking to one another. And I'm hearing compost on this row. Oh my gosh, there's so much environmental science. But I'm seeing this. Okay, so this row is done. Spirit is like next, and we're moving on to this one. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm seeing in this row decomposition and worms, and just in the sense of like turning something about turning the soil into something that's deeply usable. And so on this row particularly, the blocks, this is what we're talking about. And that's where I got the compost and the heat of compost in that process and how hot it actually gets. They're surprised if you have one of those composting things in a yard. It is actually very warm in there. It gets hot. And it's because it creates an energy, right? And it's almost like this is you. So the page came out to clarify the page. And I think this is you showing up in a very, it's like a highlight, like show up in this curious energy, right? Remember we were seeing here from Spirit not to show up to new opportunities in this hermit, know it all, had done it all energy, to be very curious, not because you're trying to play politics or win the room or anything like that. This is just about doing that because there's stuff that you don't know. The hermit knows some things, but the hermit isn't Google. Even Google, there's certain things that Google is unaware of, right? So it's really important to keep this in mind here. Compost. I think I've told the story on this channel before about how I had to give up fishing. I gave up fishing. I liked just going and sitting by the water, and it was just such a peaceful thing. I still do that with a book now, but I gave up fishing because I read that worms have that they feel. Studies were done that showed that they feel things. And the minute that I thought about putting a worm on a hook, I just about puked when I read that article. Sorry for the graphics. But I felt very sick to my stomach, 2222 on the time, because I was just like, oh my gosh, like what am I doing for what? Like I don't need this fish to eat. Like I'm just, oh my gosh, like it was so, even though the hook that I was using was not one, you can get ones that don't harm the fish, but it was still just like, oh my gosh, like I can't do it. Like it was just too much. So it's almost like this balance of like the tiniest life mattering, like the tiniest details mattering to your curiosity here, this composting process. And worms are so useful. You can always tell a garden that doesn't have worms. They say if you place a barrier between the original soil and you create a raised garden, that you should put worms into the soil. There's also a worm that's kind of an invasive species in the area in southern Ontario, and I think across southern Canada. But they're talking about how it can actually kill off the earthworm. They still both serve similar processes, but earthworms are very beneficial for gardens. So it's almost like looking at the lessons of the things that hurt and the things that made you an expert, like that hermit energy. It's almost like there's the Ace of Pentacles again with the Queen of Cups. It's like making sure that you have the right orientation towards the lessons that you've learned along the way, so that you're not stuck in this like loop of it's almost like you can be the hermit only for so long before you have to return, because the hermit does not know that they're the hermit unless they're in the context of being a beginner somewhere, right? So if you're just the hermit and that's all that you are, that's great. But then there comes a time where it turns you into this like this space of it turns you into this space of it's like you feel like you just know everything and you don't, right? You just don't. So the hermit is wisdom imparted, but I get that there's like a way to start as a beginner here. just to start as a beginner, and that's really important. And 8 of Pentacles here as well. I think it's understanding that this is a process. Like there's something that's going to take time, and showing up as a beginner is going to help with the long term, right? There's a lot of hard work involved in things most of the time, right? I'm no stranger to that. Like I know I've talked before about how I have family members that have like these huge honors, like the Order of Canada and all that crap. And I say it's crap because like at the end of the day, when they pass away, like they did amazing things, yes, but like it doesn't affect my life. So, but it's also just like, this isn't to speak down to what they've done because it's very important work, but like you can't take it with you, right? We're all going to decompose, right? We're all going to decompose and go back to the earth at some point. So it's like, it's about what you're doing personally here. And this long-term take is like, it's very important to keep in mind the long haul investment in something, right? To keep in mind the long haul investment, and maybe understanding too that people won't understand your drive or your ambition or where you're coming from, but that shouldn't affect your emotional investment in something, right? That shouldn't affect your emotional investment in something. And Judgment is here as well. So this is like the decision to proceed forward for what you know is true. 9 of Cups as well. So that's more fulfillment. I think there's like I'm getting 2 different storylines here. So I'm getting this storyline of like mistaking other people's opinions as feedback that matters to you, which is, you know, it's important to filter everything through. But I think that there's also this process of realigning what is most important to you in terms of not just your curiosities and things that you're curious about, but I think that it's also from a place of, I'm just getting this image of like someone's energy being very sticky, like very sticky. So, and I don't know if that's why you've been in this hermit mode. Okay, Spirit, can you clear that? That's not mine at all. Sorry, folks, but it's just it's a weird feeling. So thank you so much. What I'm getting from here is this, it's like it was a sticky energy, but it's like understanding that being curious doesn't, like, people's beliefs about you don't stick to you. They don't cling to you. They do if you let them, but there's something about this long-term investment here. Long-term investment, and it's not about commitment necessarily. But it's about understanding that what comes from your heart is something that not everyone's going to understand, right? Not everyone's going to understand it. 9 of Cups and Knight of Cups. Not everyone's going to understand what's coming from within you. 2727 on the time. And that's okay, right? The thing to keep in mind too is that this is possibly also you being in a really fulfilled place because you get that, you know that. So what you're doing is allowing love to find you in that frequency of a grounded fulfillment. And I think that it's clearing the block of starting from this beginner place, right? When I started this channel, I was really, I didn't really know a lot about doing YouTube stuff. Like there were different skills that I had, sure, but I had to put a lot of work into researching, things about video and how to make it all work. I watched other tarot readers and took notes because they're brilliant, right? So, and just other people on YouTube, and I put the work in. And it's like, that's not to say that upholding myself, but it's to say that there's some degree of like, there's a long take here. But there's something that's going to come in that's really, it's going to make up a 10 of Cups for you, because you're the 9 of Cups, and then there's this little Knight of Cups here coming along. This could be an offer for a project or work. This could also be an offer for, relationships or love. And I just get the impression that there's some way that you are, you're showing up for yourself here by understanding what to tune into and what to tap out of. And knowing that there's no shame in that. And it could be too that you're the energy of like someone being in the hermit primarily is like, is how you, is it, that's like, it soured you a little bit. That's probably where I was reading the sticky energy from. But yeah. Spirit, what messages do you have for my Taurians, please? Ace of Cups, Queen of Pentacles, 6 of Pentacles. Okay, we have Death, Queen of Swords. Yeah, it's this decomposition energy, right? It's that energy of like worms and decomposition. It's like it's a transformative energy here. Transformative that is afoot. It's like you're taking it's like raw materials, turning it into something really complex and beautiful, right? Really complex and beautiful. Have you ever seen the way that fiddleheads curl up and out? And just watch that process over time when the sun and all of the ingredients come together in the spring. There are certain trails that I hiked a lot at one point during the pandemic, and I got to see over time, like over weeks, these little tiny fiddleheads come poking up out of the ground, and they just curled and unfurled. I never picked them to eat them. I heard that they're delicious though, but it's really this process where you're taking something so unassuming and maybe this related to a dark night of the soul. I don't know. In terms of this block it's like clearing a block. But, yeah, like leaning into this heart-centered energy. It's not only bringing a sense of balance, but there's a clarity here about the transformation that's taken place in terms of this block, right? And I think that you're beginning to see this Knight of Cups, this water energy very clearly. Because I know that, like, you're responding to it, Taurus. You're responding. You're in that place. You're in that heart-centered place, that heart space. And the Empress, of course, that's exactly how you would come out, wouldn't you, Taurus? Right after the transformation, it's like you gain, it's like this wings, this sense of yourself, this abundant, rich heart space energy that is able to give to others. It's like your cup is overflowing here. This could be love coming in for you as well, Taurus. I'm not going to lie. June could be very much a month like that for you. That seventh house energy as well. So it could be something long-term in terms of contracts or partnerships or relationships, something, the Four of Wands is that energy of stability. Same thing with the Hierophant, commitment. Like even if it's not marriage or it's not some kind of long-term committed relationship, this could also just mean finding a job that you love, finding a career that you love, that's stable, that feeds you because stability isn't about things being easy or things being simple. It's not about that in this energy. What this is referring to the energy of finding a place where you can put down roots, right? So that you can enjoy that photosynthesis, so that you can have that photosynthetic process that from start to finish, it requires roots first, right? You have to have roots that can go deep enough to support the growth of the rest of the plant. And I feel like that's something that you're discovering here, Taurus. If not discovering, I feel like you're stepping into. I feel like the block that you cleared was more of the energy of stepping into and away from something. So that is fantastic. So this is the Hedge Witch's Botanical Oracle. Shout out to my friends my friends Dan and Jerry, who gave me this for Christmas. I have not used it a lot, so I'm excited to use it for this. So let's see where we go. Spirit, what messages do you have for this creative forecast for Taurus, please? And thank you. Okay, so we have humility, dandelion, of course, humility, yes. And remember, humility, there's a difference between humility and low self-esteem, and it's very glaring and very obvious a lot of the time. So this humility in the dandelion, also keep in mind that you can use dandelions, so several thoughts went through my head. You can make salads of dandelions, so the dandelion flowers and the leaves. I wouldn't necessarily do it on like things that you get in like public spaces necessarily, because that can have a lot of chemicals in it and whatnot. So I wouldn't go foraging in public areas because they do spray. So 3-3 on the time. But you can definitely, consume them. They are edible. Let's see here. Beautiful. Okay. So dandelions are considered a weed, but every part of this amazing plant is edible. Yeah. And I also think about dandelions in terms of like, it's a divine timing thing, right? If you give it enough time, it turns into a wish, right? Let me turn the light on here so that you can see better. It turns into a wish. And that's one of the beautiful parts of this plant, I think, is like, it's just so interesting because you have a field full of weeds, but then in like a week or two, you have wishes, if you look at it one way. So provided the plant has not been sprayed with weed killer, dandelion leaves can be eaten raw, steamed, fried, or blanched. The root can be dried, ground, and roasted for use as a coffee substitute, similar to chicory, or it can be prepared as a root vegetable. It's a general stimulant to the digestive system and urinary organs specifically. A tincture is made from the tops or root. All parts of the plant contain a somewhat bitter, milky juice, latex, that is used for medicinal purposes. Combined with citrus and various other ingredients, the flower petals are used to make dandelion wine. It is one of the traditional ingredients in root beer. The English name dandelion is a derivative of the French dandelion, meaning lion's tooth, referring to the toothed appearance of the dandelion leaf. This homely little plant is a constant reminder that just because something is common or even vilified does not mean it is useless. The dandelion has a rich history of going back thousands of years that twines together with human efforts. Though humble, close to the ground, and found in every corner of the world, this plant is a gift. It is full of nutrients that humans, animals, and countless butterflies and other insects can use. When you feel underappreciated or invisible, remember the dandelion and its ability to flourish. Seen from a different perspective, the oracle property humility is needed when assessing our own importance in a given situation or relationship. Are you overestimating your own contributions, value, or difficulties? It's very easy to slip into a narcissistic mindset. After all, we are each at the center of our own universe. However, it is sometimes essential to step back and be very honest about where we stand in relation to others. Everyone wants to be heard and feel valued. Are you doing your best to see others in as kind a light as you see yourself? And I think this plays into that blocked energy here, the blocked energy. And I think it's also important to remember that there's like a process happening in you of photosynthetic process where it's like that's happening inside of you, and that's a deeply humbling process. So humility isn't just about correctly assessing ourselves in relationship to the context around us, but it's also a correct assessment of our own power too, right? While also understanding the relationship and the symbiotic relationship that we engage in with others, because the dandelion grows in between the thatch and the crown of the grass, right? So it has its place too, but there's a way that it weaves into an existing system, right? So let's pull from I'm going to do the solar plexus, the chakra cards. I'm reading the ones on the top. It could very well be, let's see here. Courage. Okay, so courage. I couldn't see what was on the other side, but the solar plexus was quite loud with the yellow of the dandelion and the sun. Courage. I have the strength, courage, and willpower to face my fears and see my desires, dreams, and goals through to completion. I release the need to be anything other than who I am in order to succeed. I believe in myself and have the courage to fail and succeed. I am possible. Beautiful. That is beautiful energy here. Harmony. My mind, body, and spirit work in harmony with each other, aligned with both my will and the divine will. I have balance in my life with room for both pleasure and purpose. My giving and receiving of love and abundance are in perfect balance. I am balanced. Yeah, I think it's like a coming back to, like there's a coming back to yourself energy on this dark night of the soul vibe here. And even if it wasn't, sometimes it can just be like a moment like that. But that it's something that calls us back into ourselves. And it's, again, really important to start from this page place, right? It's really important to start from that page place. Okay. The qualities I dislike in others are disowned parts of my shadow. And it's also like triggers. The ways that people trigger us are also parts of our shadow that we're facing too, right? The ways that people react to us. So most of the time, people's reactions to you have nothing to do with you. Most of the time. Like this is if we're not in shadow or narcissistic places ourselves, right? So most of the time people's reactions have nothing to do with you. They can be as mad as they want at you and all of these things, but if they're not communicating in a healthy way and in a clear way, it can't be healed. So you using this energy and getting caught up in that is an activation of your own shadow in response to someone else's, right? So that's where your trigger is. If you're codependent or you have codependent tendencies, that's where you go into this mode of like, I have to get them to like me. I have to get them, they have to, oh my gosh, why did they not like me? And you go into this place of like just pushing energy out like it's a pumping station at Niagara Falls. Like you're pushing all this energy out to try and to win someone over, and that's your shadow at work and pulling. And it's like people go fishing, right, with energy centers out of their triggers. And so it's understanding those things too. And it's not that you're like, people are going fishing with your energy centers, but you do that with others too. And that's triggers if we're not mindful of and really tending to and working with the shadow, right? Really tending to and working with the shadow. So I think that that's exceptionally important to remember, because sometimes people will say things and do things that don't make sense. And if you're trying to make it make sense and you're using so much energy to do that, you're going to be spinning your wheels. It's really not going to help you at all, right? So keeping that in mind is quite important, I think, especially with this energy here. I'm still kind of confused because it's not, I was picking up on this weird energy, but at the same time, Taurus, what's most important for you to remember is that you're coming out the Empress here, and whatever this process was, it's just important to stay in your beginner space, right? Your beginner's mind, right? Remembering, I don't know what this is for. So it's stepping into that vibe. So, and remember to ask yourself often, what would my higher self do? That's also part of shadow work, right? It's part of looking at our behaviors and ourselves and asking what would, first and foremost, what would my higher self do? And what would my higher self say about this particular behavior if it's something I'm pushing away or that I feel ashamed of or that I don't like, right? About myself. What would my higher self say from a place of exceptional love, unconditional love? How would my higher self regard that and see it? So this is your reading, Taurus. This is a lot. I feel like June's going to be a really big month. I'm so excited to see how this pans out for you. So please do like and subscribe if this resonated. I am really, 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 I feel like, Taurus, there's some stuff that went down. I'm quite proud of you. This is a lot of, you're doing wonderful things. It looks like with all this water energy here too, you're not just watering your own garden, you're helping to water other people's, and that's very important and profound. So bravo you, my Taurian darlings. But yeah, there are other ways you can connect with me on the channel. And if this is where we part though, Taurus, I hope that wherever this finds you on the time-space continuum, morning, afternoon, or night, that it finds you very, very well. Take care, my darlings.